Hey guys, how's everyone doing today? So I just want to take a moment to kind of talk about stuff that we don't usually go over a whole lot in this channel. Part of our sustainability and survival stuff. So I've been kind of showing how to raise quail, chickens, get your honeybees and things like that going. But if you are paying attention to what's going on in society, not just this country, but other countries as well, you're going to realize that there's something fixing to go down. And we're really looking at, maybe not a World War III type of situation, but just within our own country, there's a lot of unrest. This current administration that we have, things like that, one of the things that was ran upon is they want to unite this country, unite the people of this country, but that's not what's going on. And I'm not talking about just the political classes and things, or based on race and things like that as well. They have divided this country, and it doesn't matter what race or what political class you're in. What's happened is when you take a situation and you start costing people their jobs, and you create a situation where you're going to have people, shaming others for their, whether it be religious freedoms or, just whatever their decision is. It may not even be based on a religion. And you now have the vaccinated with the boosters, and then those that are unvaccinated, even though they was vaccinated, or the ones that chose not to have a vaccination, and you start turning them against each other, which is what's happening in this country at this point. You're going to end up with some serious situations. It's just really kind of messed up right now. That's one of the things that gets me is they had these presidential announcements and stuff like that, and this guy gets up there talking about how he wanted to unite the country. Well, that's not been what I'm seeing. It looks like they're trying to create a further division. So if the situation gets real bad, are you going to be able to stay in your area for very long? Depends on where you live. If you're into town, you're going to have to bug in for a little bit, so that's where your preps are going to come. You don't want to just hit the roads right off the bat, because you got to figure, if you live in a town that has 50,000 people, everyone's going to try to evacuate out of that town. The ones that stay, they're going to be going around, they're going to be looting and things like that. So yes, you need to be armed, but you need to realize, I see some of these videos where people talk about, oh, well, I have a firearm and I've got, 10,000 rounds of ammunition. And that's great. That's a really good prep to have. The fact is, you're not going to be able to move 10,000 pounds of ammunition. You might can with a car. Your major roads are going to be blocked. You're going to need something with a major four-wheel drive. So if you've added that to your preps, that's great. If you haven't, you need to think about how you're going to move your stuff. Are you going to sit there for a few months and let things die down and just defend your home? Hey, that's great. But you got to figure, if it's you and maybe two other people, or maybe you have a family of 5 and you put a gun in everyone's hands, you're looking at a situation where 20 or 30 people, they're going to come flying in and get what they want. So you need to decide, are you willing to kill over a can of beans? Are you willing to be killed over a can of beans? You need a bug out plan. I mean, you really do. For those who don't know what a bug out plan is, that's a situation where you've moved preps to different locations, and you don't keep everything. Do you ever heard the term, you don't keep all your eggs in one basket? Well, that's because if you have to leave the basket behind, now you have nothing. So you need to set up some locations, whatever those locations are going to be, whether you're burying your food or you have different properties and stuff you can go to. You need to realize that you're not going to be able to go 3,000 miles in a few days like you can today, because the road's going to be blocked. You're going to have all kinds of road crews, as far as not saying construction crews. You're going to have road gangs, and they're going to be coming out in force. There's going to be hundreds of them. You may be armed, you may have 10,000 rounds, or you're going to be able to take on 100 people. Chances are, probably not. You might get by with it, so you need to make sure that you're able to get to your location, have different routes you can take, and try to stay off the main routes. I apologize for the wind, guys. It's picking up a little bit. So if you're planning on doing some bug out, things that you need to realize is between point A and point B. All right. Point B is not going to be your final destination. That's going to be your next location you go to. You need to figure how far it is. Does it take you a day to reach that area? If it only takes you a day, your bug out bag to get from A to B, you need to have at least 7 days of food inside that. Now, you can do that different routes. The reason I say 7 days, you're not going to be able to take a direct route. You may end up on foot. You don't need to try and carry 300-400 pounds of stuff with you. Bring it with you in your vehicle, but you may have to ditch the vehicle. That's just the way things is going to be out here when stuff finally just hits the fan. So I don't know. I don't really talk about this much on this channel. You know, I try not to get in and scare people and stuff. But if you look at what's happening overseas right now, the next major battle that I believe America's going to be drawn into is not going to be because of what China's doing. Could be. It's not going to be necessarily because of what Russia's doing over in the Ukraine right now. Could be. I don't think so. The next major battle I'm seeing is going to be what the Bible calls the War of Gog and Magog. Okay? And what that is the enemies of Israel are going to attack Israel. Israel is one of our allies. When you start having Iran, and you start having Syria and Turkey and Russia and China, and they're looking down at Israel like they're wanting, because people don't seem to realize the largest supply of natural gas in the world right now is in Israel. They have a bulk of the natural resources when it comes to oil. They don't process a lot of it, but they have it. And we, as this country, will back them. I don't care what the administration says, what administration we have in there. We will end up backing them, which will draw us into a situation where we're in a war. So that will be, in my opinion, the kickoff of it. When you start reading through the Old Testament, you read about there's a war that's coming up. They're going to come against Israel. Israel's going to strike back. They're going to completely wipe Damascus out in one night. So that's going to be nuclear. I'm sure if you read in the prophecies and stuff, it talks about how it's laid to ruin in one night. It's just gone. So that, if you look at what's happening in the Middle East right now, we're not far from that. Constantly, we have from the Gaza Strip, missiles being shot into Israel. Israel's firing back. You know, it's getting this situation where it's building up, and Israel is tired of listening to this administration. So if you check out some of the Al Jazeera news and things like that, you need to really look at what's happening over there right now. And that situation there, if it draws us into a war, that will spawn a response from China and from Russia. Now, you may think, okay, with American military, we're good. China, their current military, just their troops, okay, they outnumber us 3-1, an active military. That's not inactive, whatever their guard reserves and things like that. That's their active military right now. They outnumber American troops 3-1. That's for our active military. And we're finding out that a lot of the technology they've stolen from us, but they also have technology that is greater than ours. You know, Russia has been taking and testing these supersonic missiles. They've been using these new torpedoes for their ships. I forget what it's called, but what it does is they will launch them off of our west coast, and they will hit earthquake faults and things like that, causing tsunamis, causing volcanic reactions. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen with that. You need to pay attention to what's happening in society today. And we're getting to a precipice now where things are going to get bad. Now, as a believer, you know, I do believe in the Lord. I am a Christian. I would love to say that, hey, you know what, before things get that bad, okay, that we're going to be raptured out of here. I do believe in the rapture. I believe in the blessed hope. But I don't believe that we're not going to see some of this stuff. And the reason I say that is look around at what's happening today. You know, people are talking about like the mark of the beast. Oh, well, we'll be out here long before that happens. We're already seeing the setup system for that today. Not saying that the vaccine is the mark of the beast. I don't think that it is, okay? But it is a platform that's being used to test that will implement. So you see just how something like the flu, I mean, yes, people are dying from it, but not at the rate of what people are being led to believe, okay? Even if you believe the figures, it's not any really worse than the regular flu if you're healthy. People die from the normal flus, you know, H1N1, H2N1, or you know, there's so many different flus out there now, but it's still the flu, and that's where we're at right now. You need to really seriously look at what's happening in society. Are you prepared? Do you have your plan set up to move from, you know, where your location is now? If you bug in, you're not going to be able to bug in forever. People go, well, I've got 2 years supply of food. Man, that's great. It really is that you have 2 years supply of food. But is it all in one location? Well, if the location gets overrun, don't you think that when things get bad, people are going to be going to, you know, if you're keeping it off site at, say, a storage location, what's the first thing that gets hit? whenever they have just normal riots. Storage locations. They're going to come in, they're going to get what they can, they're going to move on, and when you come back for your stuff, you're not going to find it. You got so much stuff that you yourself can't move it. They're going to set up a camp there. You're not going to get in, you're not going to get it. You've just wasted all your time and all your preps. So you need to really seriously think about keeping what you need on hand. You know, my plan, if things get bad, I live out in the country. There are some towns nearby. So those people will migrate into the country. Why? Because people out in the country, they keep chickens, they keep quail, they keep different types of livestock and stuff like that. And they'll go, okay, well, we'll come in and get this location. Well, what you do is you talk with your neighbors and stuff. And if things get bad to a situation where you're having to defend your area, defend your home, you know, defend your neighborhood, whatever, you need to be in contact with your neighbors. Find out exactly, you know, here's some plans of what we're going to do if things get bad. They may look at you and think you're nuts, but chances are they're not. They're going to want to make sure that they're set up and you're set up. And if people are coming in that don't belong into your neighborhood, if things get bad, you're going to have a plan of how to deal with that. Right now, you know, as far as what do I need in a bug out bag, you may be asking that. There's a lot of great resources out there. Like I said, I would have a week's supply of food. You can get that, and I'm not talking about eating 3 square meals a day. You need to look at the calorie intake. It may not be completely healthy because of some of the sodium and things like that, but you can figure you're going to be on the move, so you're going to need the extra sodium while you're sweating out. You're going to have to figure at least 1 or 2 good meals a day. Yeah, you know, it's not going to be perfect, but hey, it's going to be something when you're on the move, something quick. They make these kind of like meal ready to eats. They have all kinds of different brands, the MREs and stuff. They have a lot of different brands out there now, and you can just boil some water, put it in there, and you're done. So it makes it quick, makes it easy. You can do it on the move. You're not going to have a situation where you're having to stop, make a big fire, and sit there for 20 or 30 minutes try to cook a meal, because that's going to give your location away. You need to make sure that you have, you know, a good tarp. If you're going to be using tents, make sure it's one of those collapsible tents that you can fit inside your bag or carry fairly easy, and it pops up real quick, it pulls down real quick, and it's not going to overweight what you're keeping in your pack. You need to make sure you have an extensive medical kit. Okay, now I'm not talking about just some band-aids, some gauze, and a little bit of alcohol wipes and stuff like that. You need to make sure you have Bactrim. You need to make sure that you have you know, sutures. You need to make sure that you have a mild surgical kit, as far as you're going to be able to, you may not be cutting into organs, but maybe you catch around and you need to cut in to get to that bullet. And you need to make sure you got forceps, things like that. You need to be researching. You need to have you some medical books on hand. That way, not just for when stuff happens, but start researching it now. Trauma kits, you know, make sure that you have everything you're going to need. Do you have something to set a break, to splint it? You know, everyone's like, well, I'll just tie a tourniquet off. Well, yeah, okay, that's fine. You can take a stick, you can set the wound, set the break, tie a stick off to your leg. Now, is that perfect? No, it's not. It's not perfect. You can buy cast kits. You can buy it's like a roll-up type of a stainless steel with a pad on it, and it actually will go up against your break, and you can take and wrap that down, and it's going to be more effective than a stick, because your leg is not shaped like a stick. It's not perfectly straight. You're going to need something that contours to the leg. So there's a lot of really good options out there right now. You know, a lot of people are trying to come up with what are they going to do, and they go, okay, well, I've got, you know, 2,000 rounds of ammunition. Hey man, as a gun owner, I love ammunition. I have ammunition. I can tell you right now, you start trying to carry 2,000 rounds around, you're not going to make it very far. You're not going to be walking 10 miles a day with 2,000 rounds, plus all your other stuff on you. You know, as far as people come up, so well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a bicycle with one of those carts behind it. Okay. Now, you may live in an area where that's feasible, and if you do, hey, go for it. It's not feasible. I'm going to stay off main roads. You're not going to get through stuff like this on a bicycle with some kind of a cart. It just ain't going to happen. You know, I've grown up in North Carolina. I've lived in many states. Florida, as far as what I've seen, is probably one of the worst that I've seen for this. When growing up in North Carolina, the outside wood area would be real thick like that. But as soon as you get within like 10, 15 foot coming into a wooded area, it kind of opens up a little bit. You know, not perfect, but it does open up some so you can move around. Down here, that's not the situation. It's the further you go in, the thicker it gets. It depends on how close you sit to the equator. So you need to look at the areas that you're living in as well. It may be one of them situations where your health is bad and you can't bug out, but that's where it's good to get into a prepping community, find some people nearby. Maybe it's out in the country, things like that. There's still ways people can contribute. It's not going to be feasible for everybody to just up and leave, but you need to have a bug out bag, because chances are you're going to have to leave the area you're in right now or the apartment you're in right now. If you live in a subdivision, hey, I've built several houses in my life. Each one was in a subdivision. And one of the things, if things go bad in the subdivision, they may seem like great people now. They may act like your friend, but when it comes down to it, you have a lot of potential things that can go wrong. And the reason to say that is when it comes down to you, your spouse, or your children, who are you going to take care of, your neighbor or yourself? So you need to think about that as well. You need to keep a tight-knit community as far as people you know that you can trust. And that doesn't come easily. You know, there's a few people in my life I know I can trust with some stuff that I've went through. So you need to look at, you know, prepping with your community. You may be in a different state. Maybe it's going to require you to be one of them situations where, you know, it takes you a couple of days to get to another location, and that's fine as long as your community knows where to go. When things go bad, all the time I see it, they go, okay guys, it's going down. We had a report from this channel or whatever, you know, and it's going down right now. Well, I don't ever believe, I don't even watch that stuff most of the time. And the reason why is if it was going down and we was in a shit hit the fan scenario, no one on YouTube is going to be coming out saying, okay guys, this is what's happening now. All your communication is going to be blocked. If the National Guard, military, anything like that was to be rolling out, they were going to start implementing whatever it is they're going to be implementing, it's not going to be a situation where you're going to have any communication. You're not going to have internet. You're not going to be on cell phones, things like that. All you know is, okay, you might see it on the news. Crap, this is going down. That's where your plan comes into effect. You don't have to call your community. You don't have to call your partners and things like that. You know this is the location we're meeting at. Maybe it's your house. Maybe it's their house. Maybe it's some off-site location. That is your first prep. Decide what you do when things go bad, because communication is going to be gone. It's not going to be like today where you're going to see, okay, well, this guy said that it's happening over here in Tennessee, or this guy said that it's happening in Oregon, or it's going down. When it happens, it's going to happen all at once. It's not going to be one little area here and one little area there. It's all going to roll out. And all these different things that we see happening in our country right now. I hear a cat. There he is. I don't know whose cat that is. But anyway, all these situations that's happening in our country, these are, you know, I wouldn't call them a false flag, but I would call it a training scenario. It's getting their people and their troops, and they learn a little bit about you, they learn a little bit about society, and they're learning how to better implement their plan. And they have a plan. We live in what's known as a free nation. Are we a free nation? To most degrees, sure. But you cannot, I mean, this is what gets me with our Congress. They come out and they go, well, this congressman or this congresswoman isn't doing their job because they only passed 40 new laws. Okay, they should have passed 140 new laws. Well, understand that these laws are not benefiting you. What it's doing is it's limiting you. And you have them passing over 100 laws in each state every year. Well, that's saying you can't do this and you can't do that. So you need to really look at what's happening around you. If you're in a state, you know, I've mostly looked into homesteading and things like that. A few homesteading groups and stuff. Get information. There's a lot of really good information, especially with the older generation that's out there. Not calling y'all old. Y'all just have a lot of information compared to us. But these people are like younger than me, and they're coming up. So, okay, well, I want to get some off-grid land in Maine. Maine, really? You know what the winters are like in Maine? Do you know what the governors are like in Maine? And they're picking these like very liberal states, and they want to come up in these areas, and they want to start living off the grid. Okay, then they, well, what's the best off-grid option to not have, to not have to rely on electricity, but have all the modern features you have today? Well, I got news for you. You're not going to have the modern features that you have today if you don't have electricity. You don't have a need for a television. Are you going to run through the woods with your 55-inch flat screen? For what? Well, I might want to play a video game, or I might want to, I'm not talking bad about TVs. Hey, I've got a couple of televisions. I've got a couple of gaming units. I don't get on them as much as I used to because I feel that it's getting dire, the situation is, and there's a lot of preps that I need to get in place. As far as, why am I even dealing with chickens and quail and things like that right now? Well, we're not in a situation at this moment where things are so bad that I need to leave. But we are in a situation right now at this moment where it could be just, it was overnight, guys, when they rolled out all the mandates and stuff. And you go to the stores, you had to wear your mask, if the stores even let you in. There's states right now that if you don't have a vaccination card showing that you're up to date on your boosters and your vaccines and things like that, you can't get in there. They're not going to let you in. You're not going to come in and shop. You're not going to be able to do anything. You can't report into work, things like that. I don't have that issue in this state yet, but we have election year coming up, and anything's possible. Now, there are some companies around here, when you come up and it says no vaccine, no mask, no service. I didn't think they could do that, but they're doing it. So they can serve whoever wants, private business. Hey, that's fine. That's your right. That's your, whatever you want to do with it, that's fine. I have the right not to spend money at your store. Right now, you can do online purchases and stuff. Eventually, that's going to stop. But you need to look at what's happening in your area. Don't rely just on what you're seeing news-wise on YouTube, because one, if you're looking at Fox News, you're going to get one side of things, a conservative side. Now, I watch Fox News on occasion. I don't really watch a lot of news. Every now and then I watch CNN. Might laugh about that, but you're seeing where the narrative's being driven. And you have to understand, all news networks work for one political party or the other. And both political parties work for the same deep state. If you don't believe me, look at where we're at now. So people are jumping up and we're bashing on the current administration. Why? Okay, well, they're forcing mandates and stuff. Okay, well, if our other administration had been, if Trump's administration had been in there, would we have been forcing the mandates? I think yes. I voted for Trump. I don't think that, my eyes have just really been open. I don't believe the president of the United States is running anything other than their mouth. That's just the way I look at it. Our government, it doesn't matter whether it's Republican or Democrat or whatever, socialist or, conservative, whatever the terms are today. We don't have the true Republican or Democratic parties in this country anymore. We have stooges that are up there. They're doing what they're told, and when it suits them and when they can make a buck, they will vote however it takes to suit their own interests and fill their own pockets. That's the government we have. That is not a United States government. They claim to be. They don't care about the country. They don't care about you. Did they show up on your door? When I was out here with Hurricane Michael, I didn't see where they come by and cared about anybody. Now, we did have one guy come by. Well, I'll take part of that back. We had one guy come by, and he was from FEMA, and they were going around the neighborhood, and they did check to see if anybody needed, any kind of medication or anything, because there was some of the older generations, maybe they didn't have medication stockpile back. So they come by and they're like, do you need anything? So I'm fine. Asked Dad, said, you need anything? No, we don't need anything. Well, while he's talking to you, they've got 3 guys looking around your property. And they mentioned the diesel fuel that I had stockpiled. And said, if things get to worse, and they wrote it down, they know where to come get it. So naturally, I put it right in my RV. I put every drop I could, but I couldn't fit in the tank. I put in the storage bin. I pulled up jacks, rolled in slides, and I hauled butt to North Carolina. You're not going to come and take my preps. I don't care what it is. People sit there and they talk about the other people out there. Hey, I'm not worried about the guy with 3 kids that needs to feed his family. He doesn't want to die any more than I would want to, but I would help him out. But I can tell you right now, if an overreaching government shows up looking for problems and looking for trouble, there's enough people in this neighborhood, they're going to find their hands full. Now, I don't I don't condone going and just, you know, like some of this crap that you see people talking about overthrowing. We don't need to overthrow and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is we need, as people, I don't know that voting helps, but it's our avenue that we have to use. And we need to look at who's truly running for offices, from Congress to the Senate to the governor to the local mayor, okay? You need to look and see who's running. You need to look and see who's running your police force. You know, the sheriff. You get to vote for who's your sheriff, you know. You need to make sure that you are putting people in office who uphold the Constitution of the United States. If you do that, it will not matter what an overreaching government does. So down here in Florida, we have a great sheriff's department. We really do. These guys are saying, you know, if they come up, talking about like the rioters here the last few years, if they come up and they're going to try to attack you, burn your house down, they remind you, you have a right to self-defense. You have a right to protect your home. You have a right to protect your family. They are not allowed on your property if you don't want them on your property. And there are legal ramifications, deadly ones, if they come up looking for trouble. And that's our sheriff's department down here. That's down here in Florida. Hey, those are the type of people we need in office. That's not saying that we should just run around and go tear off a big turf war, you know, turns into, you know, some sort of crazy situation. But it is saying that you have a right to defend yourself. So when you have these other governors like this Whitmore Crazo up there, and they're basically telling you, no, you're going to starve, and they're going to starve you out till you follow mandates. You know, replace people like that. You know, you may not have a lot of options. So if you're going, well, there's no options, I don't agree with that. Then you need to run for office yourself. I know that says a lot, you know. Well, I can't do that. I'm not a lawyer. Well, we don't need more lawyers in office. Originally, when this country was first founded, it was people like us that were running for those offices. If anything, this year has taught me any average person can run for office and get office if they stand upon a principle of Constitution, a godly principle. Then your chances greatly increase. People are tired of politicians. They're tired of crooks. So you need to look at that type of situation. But, you know, maybe it's not you. Maybe it's someone that you know that would make a really good official, and you need to talk them into running. But anything's better than what we have in most of these states. So a lot of people talk about, down here in Florida, we have DeSantis, and there's people that are, you know, either pro DeSantis or they hate him. Me, I'm kind of in the middle. I don't really hate the dude. I like some stuff he does, some of the stuff he says. I'm not in love with the guy either, you know. I mean, it just is what it is. He's got his faults as well. He's a politician, and that's what it is. People are like, well, we need DeSantis for president. I can guarantee you, if you put DeSantis in presidency, or if you had a Trump-DeSantis card, even if they got elected, several things are not going to happen. The mandate's not going anywhere, okay? They may talk that it will. It's eventually it's going to come to a head where people are going to require it. Right now we have OSHA. They've already passed it, and it's been passed through law. It's been fought a couple times. I believe it's up to the Supreme Court now to decide whether or not this OSHA regulation requiring you to have the vaccine is legal or not. So I'm hoping they do the right thing on that. I've not heard a lot of traction or news on that yet. I know that they just kind of left it up to, nope, OSHA can do it. So here's what you need to figure. Whether you're a private business or you're a large, you know, stockholder type company, when OSHA puts out a safety guideline, you have to follow it. That's just the way it is. Any job. If they require every employee for any company to be vaccinated, that's going to be the requirement. Now, we have DeSantis who goes, okay, well, if we run into a situation where that's happening, we're going to fine that company $500 per employee that they try to force to get that. Sounds reasonable, except that OSHA is fining like $25,000 per employee that's not compliant. So who are they going to pay? The $25,000 or the $5,000? I mean, you just got to look at it that way. So, I mean, I just want to touch on that a little bit, guys. You know, I've been trying to get stuff around here and all, you know, and we may not see anything major happen in our lifetime. You know, look at what happened during the Depression. I wasn't around My granddad grew up during the Depression. He was born right around that time. And it was one of those situations where it was not anything that had been, they knew it was coming. As far as the general public, they kind of could see some waves, but they just woke up one day, the banks are completely empty and everything had went to crap. Just overnight. No warning at all. Boom, there it was. And that's exactly what it'll be again. So you need to seriously think about what it is you're going to do for you and your family when shit hits the fan. And the reason I say that is this mentality of I'm just going to sit right here in my apartment. You need to get out more. You need to pay attention to what's going on. They have people coming and kicking doors in and things like that, getting what they want. You know, you may have firearms, stuff like that. Unless you're sitting there and you're facing that door and you're expecting them to come through, how many of you carry your firearm on your person at all times, ready to rock and roll at your house? Not as many as they like to claim. And you may have firearms. Are you proficient with it? So that's one of the things that get me is I've met a lot of people. They go, oh yeah, I've got guns. It's like, oh, well, that's cool, man. And they want to go shooting. It's like, okay, well, I'll go shoot. Next thing you know, they're pulling the gun out. It's loaded. They're aiming it at everybody because they know nothing about gun safety. They know nothing about gun control at all. That's the gun control, is controlling where that bullet goes. That's the only gun control we need, in my opinion. They get out there, it takes them 2 or 3 minutes to figure out how to put a magazine into a firearm. Okay, but they're not proficient. And then when they're shooting, you can take your time and you can aim for headshots and get that perfect placement or whatever, wherever you want to shoot the person or whatever to defend yourself. Or you need to get where you're proficient with that firearm, where you're not having to take, you see them all the time. They come up there and they're one eye closed and they're doing this and all this, Well, you need to learn how to handle your firearm. You shouldn't even have to look down the iron sights with a handgun unless you're shooting, 20, 30 foot or more away. All right, and at that point you should be thinking about using a rifle anyway, because you're kind of getting to the point where you're getting out of accurate range for that firearm. Unless you're using something like a Smith & Wesson 500 with a 12-inch barrel, then hey man, more power to you. I'm not shooting something like that because I want something I can fire out and you can handle the recoil and things like that. Now they are fun to shoot, but it's not something I'm too big in owning personally. But everyone have a great day. If you got questions and stuff, definitely let us know. We're going to be building this chicken coop. I'm just kind of getting, I don't know if y'all could see some of the stuff I got coming up here. So I'm just collecting lumber back here, and we got some plywood and things like that as well. So we're going to be building the frame out and getting that chicken coop ready. But all that'll be for naught if you can't have a plan. So can you bring your chickens with you? Yeah, it might be a situation where you can. Maybe it's a situation where you have to leave your chickens. Maybe you butcher them out, take as much meat as you can, cook it up, turn it jerky, stuff like that. I'm looking at a situation where I've got some recipes to make chicken sausage. We'll see how it turns out. Don't know. Chicken jerky, quail jerky, stuff like that. Canning eggs, jarring eggs. There's a lot of different stuff that's going to go into preps. Now, I try to keep things manageable, but I have a 40-foot RV. I also have a Rubicon that's 4-wheel drive. Doesn't go anywhere. It's true 4-wheel. It's not that old fake stuff. You drop it in 4 and it's pulling on 2 sides, but not all 4 wheels. It is true lock. And between those 2 vehicles, I don't think there's going to be a lot of issue if I have to leave an area. And they're easily defendable as well, to a degree. But when all comes down, if you can't access road, maybe you have to back up to your 4-wheel drive and you're going to reach areas where that won't go, So you need to really think about what can you carry. Maybe it's a situation where what you have on hand you can move and make a few trips and then stash it into different locations, or start putting it in different locations now. So we have some family property, purchased here a while back up in Wyoming. Now it's partially set up. It is not set up to a degree where it is self-sustainable at the moment. It has your septic and basic stuff like that. But getting from here to Wyoming, there's drop-off locations. Okay, I've spent 5 years full-time RVing, and I've got things set up for if stuff gets bad. Now, some of it may have been found, who knows, but there's drop-off locations with supplies. Not really remote, but not easily known or findable. So to get from one location next, because I can make a trip from here to Wyoming easily in 7 days. Now, are you going to be able to do that if the roads are blocked? If you have road crews, you have military roadblocks, things like that? No. So you're going to have to learn how to read the terrain maps, operate compasses and things like that. So definitely check out channel Survival Living. It's a LLC. My brother runs it. He gives all the training on that kind of stuff. I'm not going to cover all that kind of stuff on here, but one of the things we can do is maybe get you some links over to it and stuff. But he's going to teach you everything from, if you're out and you have nothing, how you can survive. So we actually have first class coming up. I'll be helping as one of the instructors on that here on the 20th. So I'm looking forward to, getting out with some of the people. It's a pretty good sized class from what it sounds. And we're going to get out, get to know some of our viewers and things like that. Most of them, I believe, are his viewers. There's a few that we have, in common, but it's going to be really great, just kind of getting to know people and stuff. And that is how you build your prep communities, okay? Your groups. Maybe there's someone that's not real close, but close enough where you can pass on information. This is where we meet at this time, because one person's not going to hold off an army. 5 people's not going to hold off an army. 10 people's not going to hold off an army. If you are going to survive, you're going to have to trust somebody. It's just the way it is. You could lone wolf it, I think some of that's kind of asinine. You're just going to go out on your own and survive. Well, let's look throughout history and stuff. Have we had lone wolf, like, types of characters and stuff? Probably. They finding dead bodies and mummies and stuff like that, and they go, okay, with this person they would go out and they would go out by themselves and stuff, and okay, that's great. But most of them only live to be like 30 years old. Well, I haven't seen my 30s in almost 12 years. So it's good to have a group. It's good to have a plan. Maybe you have people in your group that have medical training. Maybe there's doctors, maybe there's surgeons and things like that. Everybody brings something to the table. If you're coming into a group and you have nothing but an empty belly and you don't want to fire a firearm, you don't want to march, you don't want to whatever, chances are you're not going to be part of any groups. So you need to figure out what your skill set is, what you have to offer. Work on your preps. Now, that doesn't mean you have to prep for everything. Everybody has their strong suits that they can prep up. So find a group that needs your skill set and y'all work together. Everyone have a great weekend.